Hey everyone, we are Kairos Copychats. Thank you so much for tuning in today.
Today's episode will be an interview where we ask our guests about their experience with faith and how it's impacted them.
We believe that everyone's story is powerful and needs to be heard, no matter their background.
We're looking forward to knowing more about our guests and hearing what they have to say, and we hope you're excited to hear from them as well.
So buckle up and let's listen in. Hey everyone, my name is Ryan,
I'm Jared.
and we are Kairos Copychats.
This podcast exists as a safe space for you to bring your questions and rethink faith so that you can encounter Jesus personally.
Today, we are on opposite sides, actually not really opposite sides of the country. We are on different parts of the country. Jared and our friend here, Taka, they are currently in Illinois. And so this will be our first Zoom podcast together. Everyone, welcome Takayuki Higuchi. How we met is actually really funny. So Taka and I, we were playing club tennis together. Not together, but we were on different teams, and we met playing a tournament, playing club tennis in Arizona. That's how we first met. We were playing doubles. He was playing for DePaul University. I was playing for UC San Diego. And we became quick friends after that. We started following each other on Instagram. It was only after we played one another that we found out that we were both Christians. And that's how we started talking together. And we've talked over the years. And then somehow, you're gonna have to remind me how you guys met. It was definitely over Instagram.
Yeah, I'd never met him in person. No. I just got this long like appreciation message. It was like, oh yeah, I know Ryan, and I know like you're a Christian as well, and I play tennis. It's great following you. I was like, okay, hey, what's up?
Yeah, that sounds
And
about right.
It sounds yeah. No, it's like it's very formal of an introduction, which I'm learning is a thing with Taka, which is not a bad thing, but it is a thing.
Maybe it's too Asian of me.
It's too Asian. But yeah, like we ended up just talking over Instagram for a while. This is honestly only the second time I've seen this man in person.
Second time, literally.
Yeah, only the second time. The other time was Ryan's wedding last August. So it's been fun getting to spend in a lengthy amount of time with him. I hit him up just before like a couple weeks ago because we're out here in Illinois. I'm playing 2 tournaments, and I was asking him like, "Hey, you happen to know anybody in the Champaign or Edwardsville area? These tournaments, just trying to find someone like maybe share a room with or whatever." He's like, man, I don't know anybody, but I'll come with you and split the room, and we can drive and everything. I'm just like, okay, that works. So it's been fun, just sharing a room, watching anime, playing tennis.
Sure, that's the
fun.
life. I should be over there right now.
Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on. I think with like Ryan, my first impression was like, I remember back then you used to yell "fearless" like
Oh
right
no!
before every match.
Oh, don't remind me.
And it's funny because like my teammate at the time, like he's on my team, but he was like, "That's when I knew you guys are effed. You guys are gonna lose." And I remember like up to like 2-all, it was pretty tight match up, and then like the rain delay happened, and that kind of threw off our rhythm. And I know we lost 2-6 pretty easily, but I just first impression of Ryan was like, man, this dude he competes. Like I respect that. And
you know he named one of his rackets that, right?
Oh, that's right.
It was painted on the bottom the word fearless, and the other one was what, dauntless or something?
Something like that.
That was a phase. That was a phase, man. My gosh.
Oh man, that's a
now they're Bible verses. It's different now.
That's true.
Oh,
I forgot that. I did not know he just yelled it.
Him and his partner were like fearless, and we're like, oh Jesus,
Before the match.
Before the match, yeah. Before
you didn't even win. That's so fun. Like, okay, in tennis, it's not that weird to exclaim after winning a big point or something like that. But before the match starts. My boy just playing head games out here.
And it was before like we served. It wasn't even after a point. It was before a point.
Yeah, it was like after warm-ups and like right when like Kyle was about to serve. I remember that. But
I mean, man.
I feel like this is like more like exposing Ryan rather than talking about me at this point.
Yeah, we got background info we didn't have before. I didn't know this. Like, we gotta. Come on.
Oh
No,
my
but
god.
I think like Ryan said, I think after we connected on social media and we found out we were both like believers, and along the way, knowing that Jared himself is a very outspoken believer as well. I think in my area, it was kind of rare to grow up with Christian athletes. And for me to see someone, especially like in my own sport, playing tennis, who is outspoken about their faith, just motivated me even more. It was kind of hard to find that in my area. So to find someone who's very public about their faith was kind of inspirational to me. And I know me, Jared, Ryan, we have like a group chat of technically now bro pals, but I feel like over the years we've always talked about prayer requests, struggles, sending funny memes for the most part. But indirectly, that seeing you guys being so outspoken about your faith while excelling at tennis was a big motivator for me. And clearly we've kept in contact all these years. And with Jared, like I have never even met him up until last year, but to keep in contact like this for what 5-6 years
Yeah.
was a big inspiration for me at least.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It was so funny because I'm usually like, I remember we were talking about this the other day, just like I'm mostly extroverted, but around people I don't know, I am kind of introverted. Like it's tough to. I'm not good at small talk. Like I'd rather talk about things that actually like I enjoy, am interested in, pertain to me in that sense. So I get kind of introverted around people I'm not aware of or people I'm not really comfortable around. But like I think it just slowly became like you're a friend. I there was no like feeling out process almost. It just seemed kind of seamless.
It was pretty instant, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was because I was just like Ryan knows you. He vetted you for me. Like we're good. Like that's it. That's all I needed.
Yeah, I remember like the first time we actually met, Jared was like, "Man, I didn't even know what your voice sounded like."
Yeah, dude. I was like, I was something I didn't even think about it. I knew this guy for like 4 years, and he walks up. He's like, "Yo, what's up, Jared?" I'm just like, "Oh yeah, I don't know. I've never heard you talk."
Probably didn't know how tall he was either. You guys are like basically pen pals for the longest time until
Yeah.
you guys first met like last year at my wedding.
Exactly. That's exactly how it went. It was pen pal, adult pen pals. That's what they should just rename Instagram to be that adult pen
jeez.
pals.
Yeah, it's been really cool. It's like seeing like just how our friendships have grown with each other on social media. So social media does have its benefits now in that sense, you could say.
A few. Yeah. It's not all
Few.
doom and gloom out there.
But yeah, Taka, thanks for joining us today, and we can't wait for everyone to hear your story and more of who you are as Takayuki Higuchi. So we'll start with a little light question to kind of have everyone get to know you and also us together collectively. So our opening question for today is: if you were to have two portals, an opening portal and an exit portal, where you enter and exit anywhere in the world, and they're permanent portals, where would you place your two portals?
Well, first of all, I forgot to mention, thanks for having me on the show. And
Good to
it's kind of weird having you use my full government name.
Sure.
But
We'll talk of the rest of the podcast.
gosh.
Boom, boom, boom.
From here on out, it's just Taka.
Yes. I think to answer your question, I think the one place I would place a portal will be in Japan. But I think specifically, close to family. First person that comes to mind is my grandmother. I think it doesn't happen often where like the whole family we get to go to Japan as as vacation, and like I haven't visited in a very long time. I went recently, and I went a year or two before that for work. But before that, I hadn't gone for like close to maybe 12, 13 years.
It's been a minute.
So during that time, you don't see your cousins, your family as often, and especially your grandmother. Years ago, when I saw my grandmother, she was a lot more. She was different compared to how I remember her. Like older, things like that. Like age does play into effect, and I saw that firsthand, and I almost started crying because like I just wasn't thinking about it.
Oh, wow.
So for me, for my future family, like I do want, because I think my parents, they do plan on going to Japan when they retire.
Mm,
But when I have like a future family, I do want, them to see my parents as often as possible, because I see a lot of my friends visit family that are in the States or in a different country, but they actually make time as a family to go visit.
mm.
Whereas we, not necessarily the whole family goes. My
Huh.
brother hasn't gone still since 2009, and we're trying to convince him to go, but I don't know where his motivation is. But I think seeing family that you haven't seen in a long time age kind of broke my heart.
Hmm.
Mm.
And I do want to have like my future kids visit their grandparents as often as they can as family.
That's awesome. Yeah,
That's good.
So,
that's a good
and of
answer.
course, like the food there is amazing. I'm not going to deny that. And you guys would definitely have to go for sure. The
I'll be there in
sushi
2 months.
there,
So
I know
two
you
months
will.
before our honeymoon, we'll be there. So we're excited.
Yeah, dude, the sushi there is unreal. Like,
Mm.
dude, the sushi pieces that I hated in the States, I loved over there. They are vastly different. So,
We went to a sushi joint the other last week, and it was funny. I was just like, man, this stuff is so good. He's like, this salmon's trash.
You know what real sushi is in Japan.
dude,
I'm just like, it's even better than this.
like the joint that we went to last week, like not only was the fish felt like it was like kind of lower quality. Like I usually like salmon here in the States,
Yeah.
but salmon there was trash. I was like, what the frick?
Oh
Huh.
And
yeah.
on top,
Interesting.
oh excuse me, and then on top of that, the rice portion was abysmal. Like at the joint, the rice there was more rice than fish. It was crazy. But in Japan, it's the fish that absolutely smothers over the rice.
Huh.
Ah,
So it's the opposite. The fish to rice portion is much better over there, and it's fresher and it's cheaper and it's better. So like,
I believe it.
man,
ah.
yeah, I know. You and Jess are going what next month in 2 months, right?
2 months, September, we're going. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Jared might go with
I'm trying,
this
bro.
year.
I'm trying. I wanna. We'll see. But man, that portal question, I'm gonna have to. I want to say Japan, but I can't. I can't copy him. So we'll just skip over that. I'd have to say the entry would be my house, obviously, just easy access.
Mhm.
But I did like there. So I went to a couple times. I went to New Zealand to play some tournaments, and New Zealand is obviously famous for the Lord of the Rings filmings. And one of the places I played in was in Wellington, which is this like southern part of the North Island of New Zealand.
Mhm.
And in the middle of Wellington is this like big. It's not like a mountain, but it's called Mount Victoria. And if anyone's been to San Francisco, it's kind of like Golden Gate Park, where it's like this massive park in the middle of a city. And Mount Victoria is where they filmed multiple scenes for Lord of the Rings, including like the outskirts of the Shire in the Fellowship of the Rings when they're like first leaving the Shire and like when they hide under that tree from the Nazgul that's on the road. I went to some of these film sites that they had,
That's cool.
and it was just so cool because when you get to like there's also other like hiking spots and just like little walking trails, and it's so funny because it's like you're in the middle of the city, but like once you walk into the trees, it's like everything else fades away. It's like its own little world almost, which makes so much sense as to like why they filmed it there. But it would just be cool to just like have a portal to just I want to clear my head and just go and just
Yeah.
walk in nature, be in New Zealand. Like I loved being there so much. And I made sure the second time I went, like my Airbnb was close by to not only the tennis courts, but to Mount Victoria. So I could go back there, walk up there and just chill up there. So yeah, I'd put my portal right there at Mount Victoria in New Zealand.
Ooh, that's a good answer. Yeah, I would have to say the same, honestly. Like in terms of not like Mount Victoria specifically, but I would want a portal in my home, maybe like under my bed to make it like secret, so no one else, just me and my wife can go. But I would have it under my bed to make it feel like I'm going to like like another world, like this world. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't have a
Yeah.
specific yeah, I don't have a specific mountain in mind, but just a mountain with lakes that's away from the city. Uh,
Hmm.
there is that element of like I don't know. I love seeing mountains. I love walking up mountains, and there's that satisfaction of climbing up a mountain and seeing where you've come from and seeing like everything from a bird's eye view. It's it's beautiful, and I know I just think of one of the psalms says something along the lines of how the mountains just cry out God's glory. Um, I know that there are many, all of creation screams and cries out of God's glory, but I think the mountains are just a picture of faith. And so I just love the idea of just climbing a mountain, even if it takes you all these different detours or you get lost a few times. Sometimes you end up in this wonderful inlet or waterfall that you never thought you would see unless you took that scenic route. But then when you get to the summit, you realize everything you went through was all worth it at the end.
Hmm.
So
It is kind of it is fun. I like that picture. It's like a mountain kind of reflects in a sense like a little bit of God's nature because it's like it's so big and impressive and like monumental, but it's like also so approachable and enticing.
yeah,
Like you want to be near it. You want to go and explore it, check out the little inlets, and like you might have the same hiking trail up a mountain, but discover something different every time. My cousin, she lives in Colorado, and she's been posting all this like hiking stuff, and it's some of the most breathtaking views. And I feel like it's a new one every time, and it's like the same kind of mountainous area. And it's like you feel like that with God. The more you press in your relationship with Him, the more you read the Bible, the more you find out about His character. You find something new, something impressive, something awe-inspiring every time. That's a good word picture.
yeah. So but yeah, Taka, we would love to hear more about. I know you mentioned in that question that you would like to. You mentioned some of your family dynamics and everything. We would love to hear more about what life was like growing up for you in your community. Like, where'd you grow up? What was family life like? Growing up in high school, etc. Tell us a little more about your childhood.
Yeah, so I was, born in Chicago, Illinois, and lived there not too long actually. And then we actually moved to Japan for like a year, I believe, is what my parents said. And
Hmm.
then not long after that, I think we moved back to Illinois in a neighborhood called Naperville. We lived there for I think also about like 4 or 5 years. I don't really remember much except being a troublemaker. I actually,
You?
yeah, actually, I think I don't. I was really young, and we're kind of glad that my dad didn't get in trouble. My parents didn't get in trouble for this, but I
Huh.
actually snuck out of the house on my own as like a 4 or 5 year old, and I
Really?
walked to like the nearby supermarket, and I didn't know the concept of like a transaction of like getting something paying with money. And so what happened was I
That was
took like a
funny.
water gun and I don't even remember what I like put in. I put in like maybe like a finished lollipop or something like that as like my payment, and I walked out, and obviously they called the police on me because
Oh,
I'm an
dang.
unattended 4 or 5 year old, and I walk around the neighborhood not knowing where my home was, and there was like a family that was playing outside, and I kind of joined in on them, hanging out with. I think it was a daughter. Me and her were riding on like the electric car you got
Yeah,
back in the
yeah.
day, and obviously the parents called the cops on me,
What?
and because it's an unattended 4 or 5 year old just walking
Okay.
alone,
Yeah, fair.
and the police arrive, and at the same time the police arrives, my dad drives in because he was looking for me, and my brother, he was like 2 maybe at the time, but he kept saying my name to my dad because my dad was taking a nap at the time, like, "Takagan, Takagan." So, yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
so let's just say,
man.
yeah, my parents were not happy with me that day, but I grew up in
Can imagine.
Naperville for a little bit, caused trouble there, and then from there moved to the East Coast, about New Jersey, New York. We had two separate places,
Hmm.
and we were also there when 9/11 happened.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I wasn't sure what was going on. I thought it was just like a air show or like shooting for a movie. And little did I know it was an actual like terrorist attack, you know. So from there, we decided to move to back to Illinois, to back to Chicago. Lived in Wheaton, which was a really nice neighborhood for a couple of years, and then moved to Schaumburg,
Hmm.
and been there since then. But I think when I first came to Christ was my freshman year in high school. I
Hmm.
wasn't a Christian growing up. I was actually Buddhist.
Oh, wow.
My father was a Buddhist monk for the longest time,
Hmm.
and because I'm his firstborn, his eldest son, we're kind of expected in Asian culture to take over, my dad's position, or take after the temple at the time, whether it's in Chicago or back in Japan.
Hmm.
So, if I wasn't a believer and I choose to be a monk, I think I would have been in Japan as a monk at a temple, knowing, who knows what, right?
Hmm.
Anyways, like I first became a believer in '09 of high school, my freshman year. I was kind of unsure of where my life was gonna go. Like I didn't know what life's true meaning was, and I was kind of searching for it unintentionally. And after coming to Christ, that's when I realized, like through worship, through songs, and what the Bible teaches, like different like ethics, moral codes, they align with my personal moral codes, which made it even easier for me to be like, okay, I agree with what the Bible teaches,
Mhm.
and who Jesus is in my life, and I decided this is something that's worth living for.
Okay. Was there any like person or friend or anything that like, 'cause you said you're a Buddhist, so there must have been some kind of outside influence that like drew you to God. Was there anybody like that? Or
Yeah, so yeah, I have a friend who's also my best friend at this day. His name is Josh Park,
Hmm.
and he actually invited me to his birthday party, and we're like neighbors. We live like 5 minute away by walking, right?
Mm.
But like it happened on a Saturday night. His birthday party was Saturday night, and he forced me to sleep over, even though we were neighbors. But him and his dad were both like, "No, you sleep over now." I'm like, "Okay." And so I'm like, "Okay, like might as well." Like it wasn't just me. Like some people were actually sleeping over too. So I was like, "Okay, why not?" I made good friends with them. It was my first time meeting a lot of these guys,
Hmm.
and yeah, the next morning we wake up at like pretty early in the morning, and we're like, "Hey, we're going to church. Come with us." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then I've gone for
What's the shirt?
months, and then up until the winter retreat. Yeah, up until the winter retreat in December. I think it was like right after my birthday. Like I think I had a good grasp of what the Bible was teaching and who Jesus was,
Hmm.
albeit still kind of immature in like what I know about Christianity, but still like I knew like the general concept, and
Mhm.
decided to give my life to Christ that time.
Hmm.
So yeah, Josh and those guys remain one of my closest friends today.
Hmm.
And without them, I don't. If God hadn't used them to bring me to Christ, I can only imagine like how life could have gone wrong very, very easily.
Hmm.
The past however long years that I was a believer.
Definitely. Wow.
Wow.
When it came to choosing Buddhism / Christianity, did you feel that tension of like there's certain similarities in between the two? Uh, and what drew you to Christianity over Buddhism? Because I'm sure your parents
Honestly,
might have felt weird about that. I don't know.
yeah, for sure. That's definitely a main theme in high school for sure. Like
Yeah.
when I first told my parents I'm going to church, I'm going to be a believer, Christian. Of course, like they had some reservations, of course, like they weren't kind of a fan of it, especially like my dad's a Buddhist monk.
Yeah.
My mother was more worried about like the so-called membership fees. I've never really, out of
Interesting.
all the churches I've visited, I've never heard of membership fees.
I have
Y-
that's new to
Interesting.
me.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
much
so I know
neither.
like as believers we tithe,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That I do.
Okay.
But
Maybe that's another way to say
yeah,
membership fees.
Oh, I
I don't.
see.
Yeah,
I don't know.
because
Maybe.
I think one time I did mention that I do tithe because I'm a believer, but both my parents were definitely not a fan of that at first. They were like, "Why are you giving your money to a church? They're just brainwashing you. It's not real, blah blah blah." Those things. But for me, I didn't really pay too much attention to that because, like, I know even to this day, like every time I tithe, I make sure I reflect and pray and acknowledge that God has given me and blessed me with a lot of things.
Yes.
And this is my way of worship, my way of saying thank you, like a very small portion of saying thank you back to God. And like for me to switch from Buddhism to Christianity wasn't hard at all. I personally didn't think Buddhism made a lot of sense, to be honest. Like I was just like, I would hear different versions of Buddhism actually. Like one teachings was Buddha came to the world to save the world, but I'm just like, how would he save the world if he preaches in nothingness in a way, or enlightenment, right? That didn't make sense to me. And then like when I went to the temple with my father, like we would just do chants. It's kind of like songs of praise, but just like chanting. None of that really made sense to me, and there wasn't really like a real sense of like a person giving a sermon preaching what Buddhism is about. So there was none of that. And yeah, it wasn't hard at all. Like for me, like I said, the moral code that I live by is really close with what the Bible teaches anyways. So it wasn't that hard of a transition for me to switch to Christianity.
Gotcha.
Okay. Have you, like, as you've grown in your faith and just lived out your life, what have been some of the things that you've had to overcome and struggles you might have had, or even questions and doubts that you've had with Christianity? Because like you said, you've had some of those moments with Buddhism that made it, in a sense, I don't want to say easy to leave, but you were open to Christianity or something else. Was there anything like that with Christianity or with Jesus?
I'm trying to remember what I talked with you about. I think I remember Jared asked me this earlier. I don't understand the whole timeline of dinosaurs, as weird as it is. Like the whole timeline of like dinosaurs versus like Adam and Eve first coming. Like I don't understand that portion yet. And then with the whole theory of like evolution from like monkeys to man, I'm not really too familiar. Like I know it's a theory. It's not like an actual proven thing. At least that's what my friends told me. So that part I'm not really too understanding of. And then I believe the last thing I mentioned to Jared was I don't like the idea of having a bunch of different denominations within the churches. Like having too much. It feels like it's more divided rather than unified, and I'm not sure if I'm a fan of that.
Okay.
Because, like, of course, we're all teaching that Jesus is the true Son of God, the Virgin Mary, and the Holy Spirit, or the Holy Trinity. But it's just like I'm not a fan of like the whole tradition of like what they emphasize for each denomination. So like Catholicism emphasizes, from what I've noticed, more about the Virgin Mary, the bishops, the saints, and I don't really notice too much about like them talking about Jesus. And then also there's like with Mormons, Methodists.
That's a separate
thing. So I don't know, just like the whole idea of like a lot of denominations makes me feel like we're really divided, and I feel like that's personally what I think is Satan's trying to cause all that, to divide the believers.
Yeah, that's a fair question to have, and we'll have more conversations about this going forward in our future episodes too. And I agree that denominations make it hard to really see the church or just Christianity as a unified people or spiritual family. In my studies and what I've heard from other people, there are like two ways I've heard it explained also. Is one of them is when it comes to the differences between Christian denominations, I think some of them, when it comes to what they believe in, how they live it out, what their mission statement is, and how true they are living to the Bible, as long as a Christian denomination has the gospel insight and the heart of how they live it out is still the gospel, is still Jesus Christ himself. There can be different expressions of that. So Catholicism will be one of them. Protestantism, there's all these sub denominations too, like the Methodists, the Baptists, Presbyterians, Lutherans. You can name them all. And I would say we're like different parts of the body of Christ. We're all good at certain things, and we all have different functions, even though we have differences and different expressions of it. And that doesn't just go for denominations, but it goes for churches across the world. Like the Chinese church looks totally different than the American church. I just read an article or a book about it where the main church denomination in China is it's not a denomination. It's a house church network, and they're categorized as free churches. There's no governing Christian body over them because it's illegal to be Christian anyways in China. So I think the church itself can take multiple forms as long as the gospel is the heart of it. And every other denomination, as long as Jesus is the heart of that denomination, it can be a different part of the body of Christ. And they can be good at certain things and bad at others. I don't think one denomination has like a one all be all, like this is the perfect church, because we're just human. We misinterpret, we mispractice, and do our best. But that's one way to look at it. The other way, I'll try to be brief with the other analogy, is if you think about the gospel like played out on a stage, and everyone is looking at the stage from a different angle. You'll have certain people in the front rows, you have people on the balconies, you have people on different sides of it. The people in the balcony can see parts of the stage of the gospel being played out in the world that the people in the front row can't see, but they're all looking at the same stage. So as long as the stage is the gospel, there are many ways of seeing the gospel played out, but we only have one angle. We only have one perspective. You need all the different angles, and you have to look at the same thing. The gospel has to be on stage, like front and center. So that's my other image that has helped me kind of wrestle with that. But that's a good question in general. That's a very poignant and sensitive question for for many Christian friends that we have. Is like, why are there so many different denominations? Which ones are Christian?
Yeah.
How do you categorize not Christian denominations? That's a valid question.
I mean, yeah, because I think the main thing one of the things that you just said is that we are human, and I think that we have, in a sense, the liberty to kind of express church and worship and our walk with God in a different way to some respects, so long as the gospel is the focus. I think the problem with our with the human aspect of us is we get to where the exclusivity kind of happens, where it's like, no, we have it right. Where it's like, what you say you have right isn't even an essential to the faith in a sense. And I think it's just, and I want to be careful with my words, because I know like most Christians, most people within the different denominations aren't like this. They're not trying to say like everybody has it wrong except us. Because like you said, so many people, whether it be Lutheran, Presbyterian, Methodist, Baptist, Pentecostal, like all those different denominations, from what I've seen, for the most part, like they're following God, the Nicene Creed. The God man sacrificed himself for our sins. There's no, we're only saved by grace through faith. Those kind of tenets to the faith. As long as they hold to that, that's cool. And as long as they're not trying to exclude anybody, saying you're not saved because you don't do it like us, that's where that division comes in.
Yeah, agreed.
And that's where we just get the murky depths, and where we see like it is fair. It's where we see that happening, and it's just like, oh, this, Jesus said it himself: a house divided against itself can't stand.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think like what started this whole, like, I guess, doubt with, or why I'm so bothered about like why there's so many denominations. I think like growing up, like I have, obviously, as I became a believer and like grew my faith, you kind of have like a naive point of view with how Christianity is like, what it's supposed to look like, what the church is supposed to be. One of my close friends, for example, he is technically a Christian, but his church is actually considered like a cult. And like the way they interpret the Bible is completely different from, you know, how we interpret the Bible. Because you know how Genesis, where, you know, Adam and Eve, they take the forbidden fruit, the forbidden apple.
Yeah.
They interpret it as, oh, they did, you know, instead of a literal apple, the way they think is, oh, they've committed like sexual immorality before getting married. Don't ask me how they got to that conclusion, but that's what they believe in, and they kind of misinterpret everything else kind of incorrectly. And you know, that's one of the prime examples. But another example was when I first started out in college. I was trying to look for campus ministries, obviously, but unfortunately, on my campus, we did have another cult church organization stating that to be truly saved, you have to be a member at their church, hearing how they teach, how they live out the word, and all
I've
that
had one
stuff.
of those actually.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you probably know what I'm talking about.
I've had no, dude. Funny enough, it was in New Zealand.
Oh,
This
really?
this guy came up to me and he said, pretty much, to be saved, you had to be part of a church called the Church of Zion. That was the one he said. That was it.
That's what it
That
sounds
was
like.
it. Yeah.
Wow.
So they're like,
Yeah.
you have to do that, and you have to take part in the Passover meal, and it has to be called the Passover meal. Like, I remember I called Ryan and Jess right after this. I was like, bro, I just had like this trip me out. You had to be taking part in the Passover, and communion didn't work. What are the sacraments, or what the Catholic called it? Not the same thing. You have to do it. And I stood there with this guy for a minute. I was like, break that down for me. Like what do you mean? And he's pulling these passages. He's like, he had like his book, and he's flipping through it, and it was a lot of cherry-picked Old Testament prophets. He went through like Jeremiah, he went through Ezekiel, and he was sharing these passages with me. And I'm like, I asked him, I was like, so what if someone accepts Christ but dies before they can have the Passover? I was like, what if they're on their deathbed? And this guy came back, he was like, actually, my uncle was on his deathbed. And then we went and got him a Passover meal before he died. And I was like, this man's just ready for anything, apparently. But it doesn't make sense to me. I'm not going to birdwalk too long here, but it doesn't make sense to me, because I think the I don't want to say, I'm not trying to win an argument, but I can't subscribe to that. When I look at Jesus hanging on the cross, and he turns to the thief next to him saying, remember me when you get to heaven. And Jesus says, truly I tell you, you'll be with me in paradise today. My man is hanging on a cross. He just accepted Christ. He didn't have time to go to Bible study. He didn't have time to go to church. He didn't have time to get a Last Supper in. But God said he'll be in heaven. Like, for me, that's like it. That's like, there's nothing we can do. It's grace through faith. If we have to do something, that's not grace. That's not the faith. It's not the faith. So that's good. We're the same guy.
Yeah, like I didn't even realize like it was a cult back then either. Like,
oh man,
it wasn't until I talked to like my pastor at home about it, and he was like, "Oh, wait, actually, don't support their church, don't support their cause, don't support their mission trip. They're a cult. Here's why." And he would give me like a lot of the, you know, background information, and, you know, pretty much, long story short, like, do your research, make sure you know what each church's like theology is. And like, I think since then I've been wary. I've only been to one church for the majority of my faith, but I recently switched to another church, and, you know, I had a serious sit down conversation with the pastor, and, you know, what the church theology is like, how they discipline, or, you know, just what they believe in as a church, like their mission statement. Yeah. So I've been kind of since then just being wary of like denominations and, you know, all kinds of, you know, false prophets, you know, false churches out there. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
So so reverting back to the question regarding like what I have doubts regarding like Christianity or churches, I think the big thing is for sure like denominations, the majority of them, and then also a whole timeline with like dinosaurs and evolution with like monkey to man, things of that nature.
Sure. We have a friend of ours who actually did a lot of research on that, and he's an awesome man of faith, and I'm sure we'll have him on here at some point. But he has researched specifically like dinosaurs. He's told me. He hasn't told me any more of like the details, but we definitely want to have him on here and to talk more about evolution and scientific theory and Darwinism, etc., and how that all plays into the Bible and faith. So that's still a valid question, though, and yeah, thanks for sharing
I like that.
the things that you have the qualms about. As of right now, how would you say, like right now, in your current faith walk, what has God saved you from at a personal level, and what is He saving you to at a personal level? So first, like, what has He saved you from, and then what is He saving you for slash to? So past,
Hmm. That is a very tough question.
it's a good one though, isn't it?
It is, yeah, definitely thought provoking. I think what God has saved me was, I think He saved me from like a potentially harmful relationship, a sinful relationship. And this happened like he ended things. God ended this relationship that I had right before COVID started. And you know how when COVID started, the whole lockdown quarantine situation kind of occurred, and most people would kind of see that time as kind of like depressing, where like you're not really able to do anything outside, can't meet friends, do all that. But for me, it was a big necessary time for just personal healing and to get back right with with God. Meaning, my biggest challenge that I put to myself was, let's read the whole Bible during this time.
That's what I
Let's
did too.
yeah, let's pray consistently. Let's just talk to God. I think the biggest thing that I just completely forgot about with my faith is that like it's not like you go to church once a week and that's it. You're healed or you're fine, right? It's a relationship. Like you have to maintain that relationship if you're serious about your faith, if that makes sense. And for me, I felt like I was already so far away from God that I don't deserve any type of grace. But that's also a lie that Satan puts into your heart, because sin is just naturally just painful. So I think just the whole idea of just like consistently praying for even like the smallest of things, getting your heart, your mind aligned with what God wants you to do and what God has done for you, was my biggest motivator. And I think like as the sleepless nights went on, like where I just felt like I just couldn't go on living anymore, or I just felt like I can't go on, I don't know, I've lost hope. During those sleepless nights, what gave me hope is that like, God, I know you're in control, and I know there's a tomorrow for me. So I'm just gonna just let go and let you take over. And I think just that mentality really helped me sleep through those nights. And I think it's ironic because like once I finished reading the Bible, and I actually wasn't baptized for the longest time up until 2 years or last year. And so when I baptized, I don't know, things started to kind of like, God started to bless me with certain types of things, with like work, just in general. And I think God really saved me for the positive things in life, like focusing like on community, with church, and then reigniting my passion to serve in the church. Whether it's like the smallest things, like I'm not. I used to be a youth group teacher or youth counselor
nice.
for my previous church. But right now, I'm just doing like AV stuff with worship team for Sundays now. But yeah, I think God has really saved me to just keep believing. You're gonna grow so much in your faith, this next upcoming year or two. Because where I am now, I never would have imagined I would be here at this point, when the pandemic first started. So I think, yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Like trusting him, and you just fully let go. That's what I heard. It's just like when you do that and not one hand on God, one hand on like your exit plan in case that one falls through. It's just like, no, I'm gonna see what you have for me, God. It seems like you did that. You trusted in His plan and are continuing to do that.
Yeah.
It's not like a one-time thing. It's something you wake up and choose every day, like you said. It's not a Sunday morning thing, and you're cleansed for life. That's sanctification process. It's like, yeah, your salvation's a one-time thing. Salvation's a one-time thing, but sanctification is picking up your cross, trusting God every day, trusting God when it doesn't make sense. When I'm gonna make a parallel. So
What are you thinking?
he got me hooked on this anime called Attack on Titan.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And we were literally just watching this scene where the main character has to choose between trusting his instincts and trusting of his team squad's leader.
Oh yeah.
And
remember that scene.
And it's like this big wrestle. They have this whole flashback episode, but he ends up trusting the team, and it works in in their favor. And just reminds me of that. It's just like we have this, like we see so much more when it's our plan. We see so much more when we work out the steps and can have somewhat of a predictable future. Whereas like, as we know with God, it's not like that. He doesn't show you the whole plan. He shows you what he wants you to do right now. And you just got to take that faith. You got to trust him. And his resume is just how faithful he has been. Faithful, like, and not just to you. We have the whole Bible that you read through and saw how faithful he is. And the only bad things happen when we turn away from him, and we consciously do that. So it made me think of that parallel.
I remember us talking during COVID, right? I'm slowly like remembering the conversation we had. I remember that. Seeing you now, like on the other side of that, Taka, has been really cool. And obviously we've kept in touch, the three of us, and I can see and hear the joy of the Lord is your strength. Even if not every day is like you feel like super energetic or hyped up every time, there's this resilience about you, especially given I know you had a recent ankle injury that we've been talking through and praying for these past months, and I know that that's taken a lot of faith too, just trusting the process. I know that we all love this sport, and being out of commission for that long sucks. And we always, I know you were doubting like if you could ever come back to play at the same level that you were at prior to the injury. But just seeing like your resilience throughout it all has been really cool to see. I will say that.
Thank you.
For real, it has been.
Yeah,
crazy.
It's definitely tough for sure. Like when I popped my Achilles, like I wasn't sure if I was going to do sports again or run, and if I
Achilles.
Even though the doctor said, yeah, even if my doctor said like you'll be back in court, no problem at all. At the beginning, you can't see that light at the end of the tunnel because it's just you can't imagine it because it's so bad. And like even though there was, he tried his best like affirming me. I just couldn't help but break down thinking like, man, like I'm not going to be able to play tennis or do any kind of sport for that matter. So, but I think like right now, it's gotten a lot better. My Achilles update, I'm able to do more light jogging, more movements.
There we go.
And, I'm able to get back on court, play tennis, play pickleball. However we feel about that.
We won't get into that conversation.
He needs an easier sport to get his Achilles back to where
I'll give you a pass.
We'll allow it.
Keyword. I'll give you a pass.
But yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
But sure, like when I'm supporting Jared, traveling with him, like I see all these players being at, like a tournament environment. The itch to competition. I keep telling Jared, like, put me in, let me play, let's hit right now.
I was wondering. I was like, we were here last week when I played the first event. I was like, am I doing him a favor, or am I just like I feel like I have it's like a dog on the leash. You just gotta hold back the whole time. I'm like, is this good for him?
But yeah, it's definitely good to hit some balls again.
Gotta get those hands tougher though.
Yeah, I already have blisters. Like, I have like
oh yeah,
but like Focus. There we go.
Ooh, ooh, that's brutal. That ointment I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a new skin. It's like
Mhm.
a thing to put over. Now it doesn't. It's not as tender.
Yeah, I have 3 blisters on this palm already, like one on top of each other and like another one like up here.
I just realized, yeah, like if being out for that long, your skin gets less tough because you're always playing and the toughness is just there. But
I'm so soft right now.
He's a soft boy.
I'm a soft boy. Dude, like
Soft
legit. Like
boy.
when I popped my Achilles, like I couldn't do anything for like months. Like I was like in bed for months,
Mm,
you know. And so like obviously my hands get soft and my cardio level gets low. Like
yeah,
physical therapy, we started doing more like cardio running exercises.
yeah.
Each time I feel like I'm about to throw up because like I'm so out of shape. I'm just like my previous one, I had to stop midway because I'm like, yo, I just came back from Japan for 2 weeks. I can't do this.
Oh,
Yo.
walking.
Like we walked a lot in Japan, but
Yeah.
like running and cardio wise, I was just
Oh,
like,
that's different. Yeah.
yeah, I was done. I was like, sorry, sorry, Ashley, like I can't.
Sorry.
I felt so.
Man.
That was my first time. Like I had to stop mid exercise.
Right.
Like in my workouts, I never like felt out of shape. This one, I was like, dude, yo,
I'm
I'm
done.
done.
I'm dying.
I'm like about to throw up. I I'm dizzy, like legit dizzy. So
Yeah.
sorry. I know for the listeners that's disgusting, but facts.
So, with everything up to this point in your life, what do you care about and what do you value most in life? Has it been something that you've learned since becoming a Christian? Is it something that Christianity is just further instilled in you? Has it changed completely?
Mm,
What are those things?
Yeah, I think Christianity, like becoming a Christian, made me kind of instill more things. One example is family.
mm,
I always pray about the faith of my family.
mm,
As mentioned before, I am the only Christian in my family,
mm,
and I've had opposition from my parents, my uncles, my cousins, and they're more. So like my family is like driven by money. A lot of them are successful, respectable business owners, CEOs.
mm.
They own, they're very successful in like their industry,
Yeah.
and their main focus naturally is becomes more money based. And their logic is like, if you're not hanging out with people who will earn you money or have the opportunity to, don't hang out with them. Those kind of logics.
Mm,
So, for me, it's very dry in that sense. And I always pray, Lord, just show yourself to my family members. And same goes for my future family, like my future wife, my future kids. I want to have like a household under my roof. We believe in God as our sovereign, and that He alone provides.
mm,
And hoping that planting those seeds would blossom and be a light for my other family members.
yeah.
So like that's one thing that's really I've really started to emphasize more on. And then even with you know my current girlfriend, with her we always talk about how we want to raise kids, how we want to raise family, where we want our faith to be, and just keeping each other accountable by doing Bible studies and just quiet times, pray together as often as we can. I think becoming a Christian since then has really like emphasized on praying a lot, reading the Word a lot together.
Mm,
Um, and also in my tennis for sure, like I used to have the logic of I'm here to beat you, to make you look so bad that you don't want to play again.
Oh,
That's like a really aggressive mindset. But I think becoming a believer,
Honest.
I forgot what the Bible verse was, but outdo one another with honor, with respect.
Mm,
And
yeah.
yeah,
It's
you
like
know what I'm talking about.
it's one of Paul's letters. He's like concluding stuff. Yeah, outdo
Yeah.
another, and
So I
mm,
think since then, that for sure elevated like my mental game, my mental mindset of how I treat others. Right.
mm,
Whenever, like, of course, we're fiery, we're intense on court. So yeah, on my previous podcast, like I've shared that a lot of the competitors that I play against in USTA like league matches, like a small like come on or like a yes. Like I had competitors tell me like you need to shut up. and I'm just like, and like whenever like they tell me to like to my face, I just give them a blank stare, kind of like nod or like give them a smile and just walk away. Like I don't engage in conversation because I know myself. I know I'm gonna be petty,
Oh.
and that's not a good like what character, what God would want me to be like.
Right.
Right. But like for me, being intense, being competitive, and showing those emotions on court means that I'm giving my 110%. Otherwise, for me, like it's rude to not show full effort. That's how I react. Like if someone were to go easy on me, I would find that to the maximum offense.
I like that.
And same thing for me. Like I want to make sure that they know that I'm here to win, but I want to, if I do win or lose, show with grace, and show honor to the other person. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think what else like has God really intensified in my life with how I see things.
When it comes to your tennis, I call that the Ash Ketchum mentality.
Oh no, what is the Ash Ketchum mentality?
Man, like
100, 0, there's
that kid will put 100%, 110% effort in every Pokemon battle.
Oh yeah,
to be the best he can ever be. But at the end of the day, even if he loses, what does he do? He shakes his opponent's hand and he's like, I just made a new friend. Let me challenge you again. I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna beat you next time.
Yeah.
It's that kind of
even Paul.
It's that mentality of like you give someone the utmost respect by not treating them like they're lesser or greater than you. You just go all out against them because they would want you to do that because they want to get better ideally too. And I agree that there's a difference between confidence and arrogance in the way that you carry yourself on court. I can give myself a fist pump or a come on here and there to get my energy up and to reaffirm to myself like, hey, I just hit a good shot. Let's do it again so I can continue to play well and compete well versus, saying it in someone's face. I've done it before. We've all done it before. Like yelling come on in someone's face or retaliating when someone makes a bad call on you. We've all done it.
1000%.
All done that.
Let's just part of being a Christian is confessing sins. I've 100% rehooked somebody.
I'm so embarrassed about that.
1000%.
We've all done it. I know we have.
Oh yeah, unfortunately it felt good, but I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm a changed man.
Dude, there was this one time like this guy made a bad line call and I was pissed. And in the next point, he drop shots me and tries to peg me, right? But
it's like you made the call.
but I'm a confident doubles player for the most part. I have good hands. So I deflected the volley back for a winner.
Let's go.
And then I was like, okay, this is my petty moment. I was like, yeah, ball doesn't lie. Take those. Let's go. Break on two, boys.
I say the same. I say the same thing. Ball don't lie.
Ball don't
this
lie.
happened at a USTA like sectional match. Like we were playing for a spot in nationals.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we lost, but like that specific match, I remember like the guy was being petty. Like there was a couple moments where like he hits the ball, and right before I touch the ball, he yells, "Come on!" But I get the ball back in return. I call let, and he's like, "No, you can't do that." And I'm like,
"Oh, dude, those guys!
Kidding me? Do you not know the rules?" Like I don't know, like things like that really irks me. But that's when I'm challenged the most. Like, what would God do in that situation?
How are you going to respond?
Oh, exactly.
You have no control except, I like that.
But man, those situations are tough, man.
Yeah. It really you're being tempted by those emotions and you like don't want to be Christ-like in that moment. You're like, I want to get him back so bad.
I love the Instagram reel. It's Lord, give me wisdom because if you give me strength, I'm gonna need bail money.
Oh, that's good.
That's a good one. I like that.
But yeah, thanks for that was a good answers.
What would you say? What's your biggest message to others to help them understand who you are as a new creation in Christ?
Like new creation in Christ.
Like maybe someone who's known you before and after you became a Christian. So maybe your family. If they ask, what does it mean to be born again or you're a new creation? Like, what would you say?
Based on who you are and your story.
Yeah, I think like who I was before, I was definitely more on like living the lifestyle of like a delinquent or delinquent wannabe, however you want to.
Yeah, you were robbing grocery stores at 4.
Ripe age of 4.
No, because like I was actually not a good student. I wasn't a good like maybe role model. A lot of like every year in school up until freshman year in high school, I would always get into fights with every single kid. Granted that like we grew up in America as Asian Americans or African Americans, we deal with all sorts of comments and you know unwanted attention.
Mm.
But I think because of that, like I kind of led from getting bullied to now kind of bullying back in retaliation, fighting these kids, fist fights, getting into
Mm.
trouble with the police,
Mm.
kind of like going from like a violent man to just finding peace with God. I
Mm.
think that's the biggest message that I can find right now. I
From the
mean,
story.
obviously, like I wasn't sure where life was gonna go at the time. I wasn't confident in my personal abilities. I wasn't confident, the kind of future that I want to have or I'm able to have.
Mm.
I felt like my dreams were bigger than my ambitions or what I wanted to do, and not I don't know, just finding peace that knowing that God's in control
Mm.
and knowing that as sinful of a man that I was and I still am,
Mm.
knowing that his blood, Jesus' blood, has made me clean in the eyes of God, gave me a lot of peace, and knowing that He's in control forever and ever just gives you so much relief from anxiety.
Mhm.
Especially as an adult, like I mentioned before COVID or right before COVID started. Just those sleepless nights of not knowing what the future holds. Just having that peace of knowing that God's in control, and your sins are forgiven
Mm.
was definitely like a big catch on why I became a believer, in the winter retreat. And obviously, like as you go on with the years of being a believer, you mature and you learn bigger things about yourself, how you handle situations, but also, the trials and tribulations that God provides for you because God wouldn't give you anything that you can't handle, right? So I think going through that and maturing through all the processes, like letting hardship build character,
Mhm.
definitely gave me a lot of peace for sure.
Mm.
And there was one thing that really came to fruition this past year.
Mm.
I had a pastor, like we grew up with the phrase childlike faith, right? But I didn't know what that truly meant. Like I thought that was just like worship your brains out, like worship like you're in kindergarten, elementary school, jump up and down and worship. That's how I imagine childlike faith for some reason.
Mhm.
But a pastor mentioned in a sermon that it's called childlike faith because apart from God, we literally can't do anything.
Mm.
Like how a newborn is really reliant on the parents. If there
Yes.
were no parents, the baby can't do anything.
Yeah.
They won't survive, they'll die.
Mhm.
Right? Same concept with our faith, where if we don't rely on God, if we don't rely on him, we can't do anything. Apart from we can't do anything.
Mhm.
So I think, yeah, as the years go on, that's like the biggest theme, just knowing that there's peace and with God, anything is possible.
Yeah, and I will say, I think I do want to give a little pushback because I know what you mean when you say like God won't give us more than we can handle. I think He will. The I think the verse that people quote is First or Second Corinthians 10, where it's like you'll not be tempted more than what you're able to handle. Is
Oh,
like
maybe it was tempted.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's tempted. Yeah, in regards to sin, but like people, there's like this common thing that's going around. It's like, oh, God will never give me any situation that I can't handle. God will absolutely give you situations you can't handle.
That's true.
Because it's to prove that you can't do it on your own. That's
Mm.
like the point. It's like what you just said. You have to rely on Him to get through it.
You know what's funny? When I said that, I was like, wait, that sounds wrong.
I was like,
I'll be honest.
I'm not
'Cause
gonna
you
cut
kept-
you off. I'm gonna let you
Yeah,
finish.
yeah, because
Yeah.
you kept talking more about that reliance on God despite the hard things, which is essentially what you were saying, even though you said it the other way. But we
Yeah.
both got what you meant. But it's hard letting go of the pride that we have as humans, thinking that we can take care of ourselves and we know what's best for us. And then we try doing that. We try doing things that will make us feel good based on our own understanding of ourselves, but that's distorted by sin. So how we view ourselves is not how our Heavenly Father sees us, how God sees us. Because of that distortion, there's this disconnect in how we think we need to take care of ourselves. It's like we need water after a long run. Instead, we start drinking Clorox. We're so thirsty, though, that we don't even care that's Clorox, but we don't even realize it's killing us. That's what sin is, I would say. Extreme example. It might not kill us. Maybe Clorox would kill us right away. So maybe more like maybe different substance that isn't as strong. But
Dude,
I was about to say that.
Red Bull.
Bro, man, you read my mind.
That's
I was
funny. You guys gave me this
no.
face, and I was scared of like what you guys are gonna say. But yeah, I think that's a good message. Just for us as humans, like we try doing things on our own, and it often doesn't go well. And we think we know the best. Granted, we only know what we know until we don't know what
We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know what we don't know until it happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things. Until we are thrown into the valley and we're forced to reach for something or someone because we can't pull ourselves out of the hole we just dug ourselves. Yeah, and that's where Jesus comes in. That's where he's able to actually reach his hand in and pull us out because we can't pull ourselves out. Overall, what would you say what you would share to others, Christian or non-Christian, younger and older, when it comes to Christians, Christianity, Jesus, God, everything we just talked about? What would you say would help them understand more about what it means to be a Christian? What would you want them to know or rethink about their understanding of Christianity to help them understand it more?
I think in terms of like rethinking of Christianity, I feel like a lot of people growing up as believers, we see more and more people against Christianity, saying like we're too old school in our thinking, we're too close-minded, conservative, whatever, right? But in reality, like to my answer to that is like, there's a reason why, if we're believers, if we love God, like we don't want to, be put in like a difficult situation of like sinning, because how I view the Bible is like a kind of not like a rule book, but like a guide on how to live life. I feel like a lot of in today's world, we live for, the sinful desires, just pursue what your heart desires, those kind of things. But in reality, you're letting kind of sin take control and you getting hurt from it above it all. Right. Like, I feel like I've learned as I grew up, like a lot of the sins that I've went into is harmful in the long run. And now I'm thinking, man, I really wish I didn't put myself in this situation. So kind of referring to anything, not like for me now, like I rely on the Bible for anything for guidance regarding something that I don't understand or not really sure how to approach certain situations. And then another thing I would say to non-believers kind of making fun of Christianity or kind of, persecuting them. A lot of them say like they hate Christians or they hate Christianity in general. But I feel like they're missing the point of they're focused on the Christians rather than Jesus, right? I think they miss the fact that us Christians who are believers, we're still sinful, we're still people, and we still make mistakes. We're not perfect, and that's why we follow Jesus, because he's perfect. He's he's God, all knowing, all powerful. And I had a teammate in club tennis that always said like, I hate Christians, blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, you hate the Christians, but you don't know who Jesus truly is.
Wow,
So that's one thing that I wish people would kind of be like interested in, kind of look into. Like just be aware, us Christians, we don't go to church because we feel like we're perfect, right? We go to church because we're broken and we need to get our hearts right with God, worship in a public setting, be in the community, and grow our faith that way. And I think that's just one misconception that I want to maybe talk about or say about the modern world, the modern generation.
I mean, in a sense, you could say any given Sunday morning, it's a group of people who acknowledge their flaws. Like we know, it's like, yeah, I'm here because I know I'm busted. I'm jacked up.
Mm,
That's why I'm here. I'm
mm,
not trying to hide it.
mhm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but I think the thing that I kind of talked to my youth group students back in the day was just keep praying, keep reading the word as much as you can. Make sure that your heart is constantly aligned. Your heart, your mind is constantly aligned with, what God wants you to do. I feel like a lot of the youth group students that I've had, they're for sure young, junior high, high school kids. They're young, and for me to say, it's kind of irresponsible for them to say like, or for me to tell them like, your life is hard. Of course it's hard, but my main point in youth group was, I tell them like, as you graduate high school, as you graduate youth group, majority, like close to like what 90% of youth group students don't return to church in college.
Oh,
Yeah. It's a
So I tell them as much as I can, kid or guys, like focus your or trust in God. I know I'm repetitive, but there's a reason why I'm repetitive. Once you guys go to college, chances are I won't see many of you ever again in church. And I tell them the statistics, but also that's why when you feel like you're in a tough spot in college or as an adult, I hope you know God is always there behind you, having your back. Now,
yes.
what I don't know if that's like a proper way of teaching, but I did my best of preaching the word to them with
Yeah.
the pastor and in small group Bible studies. But I want them to understand God is the cornerstone and he's got your back no matter what.
Mm. I love
Well
how
said.
real like you're very real and honest with them. I think that's good. Regardless of how well you think you said it, you were real. And I think that's all. God will do whatever he wants with those words and with what they remember from youth group. And if anything, they won't necessarily remember the teachings, they'll remember their experience in youth group. They'll remember the people, how they felt in youth group. Not
Absolutely.
necessarily they won't remember the sermons or the lessons or the program, but they'll remember how you made them feel. I think that's the source of a lot of church joy and church hurt is how someone made them feel. It sounds like you have made that commitment to just you yourself are being a cornerstone for them in this stage of their lives. So you're that coach, that Jesus coach in the background, constantly in their corner. And that's something that I wanted as a kid, and I didn't really have. And these kids are really lucky to have you, and I think that's awesome that you're doing that. Well, Taka, we loved having you on here. Thanks for spending time with us tonight and sharing everything that you've gone through and your story and who you are and your journey with Christ. And it was just so cool hearing, all the things you're wrestling with and all the things that you're thankful for also, and seeing what God has done and transformed in your life and what he's doing in your life for the future. We're excited to see where that goes, and maybe it means we'll be doing missions together at some point. Who knows? Let's go.
Yeah, I know like
Yeah,
you and Jess are going to Japan for missions,
we are
and
hoping so.
like
Yes.
I was sharing with Jared, like I always have a heart for my people, for Japanese people,
Mm,
because obviously like not if any of us are barely Christians
Mhm.
over there,
yeah,
It's one of the
and
lowest percentage population of Christians in the world, right?
less
The
than one
country.
percent, I
yeah, it
believe.
was like 0.2%, I think, or point
Even
eight. I
less
forget.
than even less than 1.5.
Oh, really?
What?
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I think like even with like the players that we saw at Urbana and
Mhm.
Edwardsville, like if there's a Japanese player, I always want to do my best to make sure they feel at home
Mm,
as much as they can. Treating them out for dinner.
mm.
Trying to do things for them. But it's funny, like his first round opponent was a Japanese player,
Oh my god.
and like it was funny. Like right before we found out the draw, I already asked his opponent, like, "Hey, you wanna grab dinner with us?" And then 5 minutes later, we find out he's playing him in doubles, and we're like,
First
"Oh
round.
crap, should I
Yeah,
refuse
yeah.
my offer?
Not only did I play a Japanese guy, while my ride's a Japanese guy, but he already asked him to dinner. So I'm like, it's fine. We had a good time.
All
This has
right.
been fun. This has been a great.
Yeah, thanks for having me,
conversation,
guys.
man.
This is a lot of fun.
Thanks for coming on.
Hope to be back soon.
Absolutely. We're
Definitely
gonna
have you
back.
on in the future. So yeah, thank you all for listening. We hope you guys enjoy that conversation, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.
See ya.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Let's go.